Hello, I'm Rachel Sandbrooks. I'm a writer and comedian, and this is the Stand By Your Nan podcast.
I've been a wild rover for many a year, and I spent all my money on whiskey and beer.
Hello, welcome to episode 4 of Stand By Your Nan, Frosty the Snow Nan, or the Christmas episode. Yes, this episode is unseasonably about Christmas, and I'm releasing it in July. But maybe we all need a bit of Christmas cheer right now. Plus the fact that most of us, lockdown has been just like Christmas every day. I mean, in the worst way. Not in the great, yay, it's Christmas. I don't get any presents apart from my Deliveroo groceries bringing me lots of gin. It's just been ages of don't go out except for one walk, overeat, overdrink, and fall asleep farting on the sofa. And that's just my dog. So in this episode, we'll be talking about Christmases past, nostalgia. There'll be a bit of my nanecdotal stand-up show coming up, and later an interview with Craig Deeley, my lovely friend and Brummy comic who has his own podcast as his alter ego, Trish, in Trish of the Day. So why do a Christmas episode? Well, if there's one thing I remember about my nan, it's all the stuff she did at Christmas. All the cooking, all the hosting, and I wanted to tell you about the story of when I found out the difference between men at Christmas and women at Christmas. Anecdotes. The best Christmases were in the 1980s when the whole extended family went over to my nan and granddad's for Christmas parties. They were proper 80s Christmases with satsumas in your stocking, selection pack really being the most chocolate you'd have all year, and Only Fools and Horses on the telly. But by the 90s, most people had moved away and it was only the last few left in Birmingham. Me, my nan and granddad, and my mum. And the occasional auntie. There were fewer satsumas and more Bulgarian Cabernet Sauvignon. And one Christmas made me realise the difference between men and women, because this was the Christmas I became a man. We were on the doorstep and my Nan Eve opened the door, greeting us like she hadn't seen us in a decade, even though we'd only been over the week before. She opened the door going, "We wish you a Merry Christmas. Hello, Rachel, hello, son. Oh, Brian's not here." Brian was my uncle, and if he wasn't there, it only meant one thing. "There's no men here, son. Oh, all right. You'll have to go and sit with Grandad. You're going to have to be the man, Rach." There were two main reasons why I fulfilled the role of man. I hated housework, apparently. My aunties would always say, "Does she still hate housework, son?" She does. She hates housework. She hates doing the housework. So my mum does as well, but she doesn't mention that bit, does she? My auntie goes, "Oh, you'll have to learn to do the housework, right? Or you'll have to find a man that likes housework." Find a man that likes housework. They laughed at that one all day long. And number 2, I drank pints. You were not a lady if you drank pints. However, you could drink all kinds of booze as long as it was in a wine glass. You be the man, Rach. I had to be the substitute man, which involved listening to my granddad. He was a loud man who needed an audience, and he used to line up his kids to test his jokes on them. And they took great pleasure in keeping a straight face and watching him get more and more annoyed when they didn't laugh at his jokes. I can relate. I mean, I know where I got that from. And every Christmas, he went down the pub. And obviously, he went down the pub most days, but he'd get unbearable if he didn't have his Christmas trip. So there's me and Grandad down the pub, drinking pints, whilst the women are cooking a feast for a family of 20 that they started in September. The Christmas pudding was stirred in the beginning of September in the front room so you could sit down because it took so long. Nan let me put the sixpence in and make a wish before common sense pointed out you could choke on that. The pudding then sat in the pantry for months next to the Christmas cake. The Christmas cake was like concrete. Raisins were so densely packed you could actually build a house with it. You didn't eat it, You just acknowledged its existence. Here's the Christmas cake. Oh, great. Yeah. Do you want some? No, it's all right. And then it goes back in the pantry. There was no fridge freezer except for that freezing cold pantry, which was filled with ancient tins like a food TARDIS. It was so damp, even the mice needed raincoats. I used to go in, but I never saw the back. I reckon if you managed that, you'd find yourself in Narnia. There was Marmite from 1962, Camp Coffee from the 1950s, which is a sort of liquid chicory-style coffee liquid thing that happened before they had instant, and rows of old Christmas cake that even the mice didn't eat. One of the tins in that pantry was from Great-Grandad's stint in World War I. It was mystery contents that were never opened. No label. Nan said, "We can try it one day. It's probably beef stew. It'll be all right. It's in a tin." So Nan and my mum are in the kitchen cooking everything you can imagine for Christmas dinner when there's only going to be about 5 of us there. The sprouts are on from 6 a.m, hares in curlers, bread sauce from scratch, the turkey ordered 3 months ahead and being stuffed with homemade stuffing. And I'm down the pub with Grandad drinking a pint because we are men. And when we get back from the pub, we sit in the front room and he puffs on his pipe, waiting to be called through for food. I asked to help when Auntie turned up, but I was told to sit down with the men. As we take our seats, the table is groaning from more food than you can imagine. It's like a closing down sale at a Toby Carvery. There's 5 different types of veg, Yorkshire pudding in a slab, a huge turkey that Grandad will carve, and as we go round, Grandad gets served first, of course, then me, then the women, and they all take tiny pieces of turkey, like only one roast potato. Oh, I better not, I'm on a diet. And Mum and Auntie are looking at my plate suspiciously. She's saying, "Are you having all that, H?" My mum's saying, "She's built like a battleship, her thighs are like tree trunks." And my auntie goes, "Men don't like it when you're fat." "Well, you did say I was a man today," I said, as I chomped down on my 6th roast potato. The logic cannot be beaten. And then they all fell asleep on the sofa, farting, even the dog. The interview. Hello, Craig. Welcome to the Stand By Your Num podcast. It's so exciting.
Thank you. I am excited.
We did the show together live in real life before the evil COVID.
We're going to recreate the magic.
Recreating the magic, but also this is a very unseasonable Christmas episode. But we need one because we didn't get a Christmas. My lovely massive glass of Baileys here for Christmas.
A tumbler of Baileys. Yes, please.
I thought I'd do it for comedy value, and then I realised we're on a podcast so nobody can see it, but it is real.
The ice sounds great.
Oh man, that's nice. And I got fairy lights and tints.
Oh, look at you.
The only problem with this is that it's really itchy. So I was hoping to have it on for the whole thing, just for atmosphere.
Yeah.
But is it all right if I don't?
I don't think it was made to wear, though, was it?
And
it's taken me right back 4 months. It really has.
I've got a present as well. I've got a present for later.
Oh, I didn't bring you anything.
Let's imagine you did. And then
all right, then.
We'll open the one that you got me later, mate. I have got some questions for you. My first one isn't necessarily have to be Christmassy, but do you have a Nan story?
I mean, I've got lots of little Nan tidbits, really, because she was. I had 2 Nans, like a lot of people, and so my paternal Nan, she was lovely, quiet, quite shy, really sweet and kind. My maternal Nan, also lovely, but a really kind of dark sense of humour, and she was not quiet at all. So, like Christmas, she had this tradition, and I don't know where it came from. She used to throw walnuts on Christmas Day in the shell.
Yeah.
You just end up with a walnut hitting you on the back or on your shoulder. And it's because she used to just throw walnuts. And only Christmas, though. All of us, yeah. You just get a walnut thrown at you. It's the only time she bought them, and they didn't really get eaten. It was just for throwing. So That's a particular Christmas memory that never leaves.
Did she actually walk around? She'd
But
just sit there in
she
her
did
armchair.
what she'd do is she'd sit at the kitchen table, and the kitchen was right next to where the living area. Even though they had a massive living room that they never used because that was for best,
Yeah.
they lived in a smaller bit of the room next to the kitchen, and so she'd just sit at the kitchen table and just throw a walnut from the kitchen table. She was a good shot. Years of practice. So every time you get like plonk as a shell bounced off your head. It wasn't to hurt you. She threw it quite lightly, but to get good aim, you've got to give some force behind it. So there was a bit of power behind it, but yeah, it was all good fun. It was Christmas. Walnuts are for Christmas, aren't they?
Do you think
not for life, thank God.
Do you think it was just like a year of resentment built up, and then it's
something
Christmas
that was built up? Yeah, something had been a brewing for the whole year, and that was their way of venting it, I suppose. Throw walnuts at the kids.
That's for all the time I've had to vacuum.
Yeah. But I was her favourite grandchild. I was the oldest grandchild on that side, so I was her favourite as well. So, but even I got walnutted.
But did you get like just the shell? It would look like it was a nut, but it was just the shell.
Yeah, I got the decoy.
The decoy nuts. Yeah, you did always used to get those nuts out and like the nutcrackers, and I don't know if people still do it. I know we don't, but
I mean, I think people buy them, but I think it's just tradition's sake, really. A lot of people buy them, but I don't think they're eaten as much. You always just have walnuts and Brazil nuts. And Brazil nuts were like the hardest shells known to man. And you could injure yourself with those nutcrackers. Well, it was a different time. Health and safety wasn't on everyone's agenda then, was it?
No. Yeah. That was
It was in the days where we used to give my granddad a packet of cigarettes as a Christmas present. So and he'd like it. He'd asked for it.
I was thinking about those front rooms because it was the same. My grandparents had like a front room and a back room, and in the front room where the men sat, and it was just filled with cigarette smoke and pipe smoke because he smoked a pipe, and it was just like the whole room was just filled with a cloud of smoke. It's just you can't even imagine it now. It's really hard to even think.
It's weird watching people on TV in older programs smoking in a pub or in a restaurant. It feels in the same way you're watching people hug is like the new watching people smoke. But we had so they had the big front room, and it was only used maybe at Christmas and special occasions. And it was mainly my nan and my mom and my mom's sister. They'd go and sit in there and gossip. Sometimes the kids would play as well. And she had like a cocktail bar in that room as well that I was allowed to serve behind when I was little at Christmas. But she only had Baby Shams and Cherry B, which no one really liked. And I think it's because she thought, well, if people drink it, I'm going to have to replace it. So she used to just get drinks that no one liked.
Yeah, we just used to have a lot of homemade wine. Like, I don't know why, but I remember her plying me with this kind of blackberry wine that tasted a bit more like vodka or something. And
was it Ribena with vodka in it?
It was probably. They used to make it and stick gooseberry and all this, and it was really harsh. Yeah. It would be like paint stripper or something. And and I remember getting given that when I was really young, like 7 or something. Yeah. Try a little bit of this.
Well, yes. Start them early so they know the limits.
Yeah, I really know my limits, Craig. This is like a pint of Bailey.
How's your pint of Bailey's going down?
It's going quite well. Do you remember what your nan used to do? Because all the women in my family seem to do a lot of all the cooking, all the jobs, and then never actually ate any of the food because they were always on a diet. But
it's that. Yeah, similar. So on Christmas Day we'd get up and we'd open our presents, and then we'd go down to because my nan only lived about like a 5-minute drive away, 10-minute drive. So we'd go down sort of late morning, so probably about 11 o'clock in the morning, and we're allowed to take our favourite toy just to show them. And they were kind of, because my granddad used to get up about, I don't know, 3:30 in the morning. So that was lunchtime for him. So she used to make the lunch really early. I think they'd have their lunch at about 11. So by the time we got there, they were just about ready to have their Christmas lunch. And then we'd go home at Christmas lunch, probably normally sort of like 2 o'clock we'd have ours. And then we'd go back down to my nan and granddad's in the evening.
Yeah.
with more toys, and then other like cousins would come, and my auntie and uncle, and so it was a nice little get together, loud and boozy and arguey, and it was great.
I seem to maintain that 80s Christmases were better, but I think part of
I think
that is
so.
because you get presents. And I was thinking,
Yeah.
I don't get presents anymore. And then I thought, because I'm nearly 50, so that might be why.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you do get,
It's
when you're a kid, you get a big present. And now it's like an
yeah.
iPad, an app. It's not the same, is it?
Yeah.
I'm
I
going to
know.
give you,
We
I'm going to
get
give you a virtual present now.
Oh, go. Oh, you shouldn't have. Go on.
What is it I've got you there? Look. Book tokens.
Hey.
£1 worth of book
Thank you.
tokens.
Oh, that'll
That's
buy
what
me.
you've
God,
got.
that'll buy me crates of books for that.
Get you a comic. And what have you got me, Craig? That's what have you got me?
Packet of cigarettes. Packet of
Cigarettes, thank you.
Yeah, well, we go with the 80s theme,
That's amazing.
Enjoy.
Did you used to get those sweet cigarettes? I was just still
Oh yeah.
thinking about
Sweet
it.
cigarettes. Well, they're called candy sticks now. You can't call them sweet cigarettes. I remember we used to be able to get sweet tobacco. Can you remember that?
Oh,
It was like
gosh.
coconut flavour, but it looked like tobacco in a packet, and you'd eat it obviously because it was sweets. But yeah, it's sweet tobacco. Again, something else I don't think you'd get nowadays. Certainly you wouldn't call it tobacco. Sweet chewing tobacco.
What did you do with it? Was it chewing tobacco? Was it like Skull Bandits? Do you remember that?
Well, I mean,
You chew it and then
it was just like desiccated coconut, but it was coloured brown, so like tobacco colour. So you just eat it like sweets. It was sugared desiccated coconut, but they marketed it as fake tobacco, which I don't know why that would appeal to kids.
I was trying to think, how would you roll
It's
it
not like
up?
we're in the Wild West, is it? Yeah. And then spit it in a spittoon.
Spitting in a spittoon, that was what it was, wasn't it? I do think, though, it did seem to me back in the day when there were kind of bigger kind of family parties and stuff, that it was a bit better. To me, it was better in the 80s. Because I think by the 90s, people drank more wine and stuff. But I remember, like, in the 80s, like you were saying about Babycham, like you'd have something like a Babycham and that would be champagne. There were lots of things that were treats. Whereas now, I don't think there's so much. I think you can get anything apart from toilet roll.
Yeah, because we've got too much choice, haven't we? We've got choice. That's the thing. We never had choice. Back in the old, sound like a right pair of old gits, don't we?
Yeah,
we didn't have the choice. Are we in a retirement home? Is that what's going on now?
Not just called Stand By Your Nan, it is now you become a nan.
Yeah, we didn't have the choice, did we? You had treats. You had the occasional treats, but beer or Babycham, that was your choice in the 80s. That's it. You didn't have wine, apart from Asti Spumante, that was it.
Asti Spumante, blimey.
Asti Spumante.
Yeah, I don't know, like last Christmas was so sad. It did make me think we need to kind of bring it back. We need to bring back a bit of celebration. But I guess we should talk really about, what did your nans do on Christmas Day? As in, did they do all the cooking? Have they retired out of that and passed it on to other people? Or was there just loads of that going on?
Well, with mine, because it was just my nan and granddad lived together, because obviously all her kids had left home. So she was just cooking for the two of them. So she used to do all the cooking pretty much. They used to eat quite early, or sometimes my granddad would eat really early because he'd been up, for hours and hours and hours, and she'd eat later. But she did all the cooking really, and she was quite a good cook. She was a traditional cook. So she'd make homemade rhubarb crumble and homemade apple pie and rice pudding, with the skin on it and that sort of thing. So it's traditional British fare, I'd say. So it was, she did it. My granddad, I think, could cook, because my brother used to go to school around the corner from my nan and granddad's, and he'd go to theirs for his lunch. And my granddad would make him like beans on toast or sandwiches, stuff like that. So he could do stuff, but my nan would do all the major works.
They would start doing it really early, like I think because my nan was a baker at one point, like that was her trade. So she really did do everything from scratch. So it was like a case of you would get the Christmas pudding made from scratch and the Christmas cake. everything. Like the turkey would be ordered, and then they'd have to like dissect the turkey with all the bits and make it something. I can really
Giblets.
distinctly, all the giblets, distinctly remember like Sunday roasts, because she would
Yeah.
make like a proper Sunday roast with the roast beef, and then always you'd get dripping on a piece of bread. She'd always mop it up, and it was
Yeah.
always like that was the best bit, was your sandwich of beef fat was your best bit. But yeah, it's just so much work went into it.
She always had animals in the house. She always, as long as I can remember, she always had 2 dogs, 2 cats. And when one of the animals will pass away, she just replace it with another animal. And later on in life, she stopped replacing the cats and just concentrated on the dogs. And she used to cook pig's feet for the dogs. So sometimes you go around, you go, what is that smell? And you'd see a couple of trotters boiling away on the stove for the dogs.
Lovely.
So she made an effort for them.
She made an effort for them. So what was your relationship like with your nan? If you were her favourite, what did that entail?
It was good, yeah. So it entailed, I used to sleep there quite regularly at weekends, which was a real treat on a Saturday night, in the scariest room in the house.
Oh,
because
what was
it
that
overlooked
like?
Handsworth Cemetery. It overlooked Handsworth Cemetery for a start. And it was really dark because it felt like they lived in the countryside. They lived in Handsworth, so inner city, but it was right on the edge of Handsworth next to Hilltop, which was like a big area of fields, like Samwell Valley, which is a country park. So it felt like they lived in the countryside. So it was really dark. So as soon as she turned that light on, so I go to bed, she'd come up, she'd give me a little Victory V sweet as a bedtime treat.
Ooh,
so I'd have that.
Little sweetie for bedtime.
Try not to choke on it. And then turn the light out, and it was just really dark, and the moonlight would shine through the window, and you'd see these shadows cast on the wall. Obviously, they were monsters, obviously. Yeah. And then your mind would turn to the cemetery, which was literally opposite the bedroom window. So, yeah, but I loved it. I loved sleeping there. And then, so on Sundays, sometimes my auntie or her cousin were around, and we'd go for a walk in the cemetery. Actually, I still do now. I love cemeteries. We used to go walking and looking at the graves because I was obsessed by the graves that had photos on them. Some had photos of the people on them. Yeah. And I'm fascinated by that's the person that's underground. So and what else? I used to comb her hair on Saturday night. Yeah, because she had really thick black hair, and it was always sort of set. Yeah. So she used to say, "Will you comb my hair?" So I used to comb her hair. So it was a good relationship. Yeah, I was.
That's really sweet.
I was quite spoiled by her, really. Yeah. Out of all the grandkids, I think I was the one that stayed most often at their house.
Yeah, that's always a giveaway, isn't it? If you get to stay over.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to stay over a lot, but I can remember how cold it was because they didn't have any central heating. And I can remember being really scared in the back bedroom because it was the one that like nobody was ever in. And just like loads of spooky stuff in the corner. There was a gas mask from the Second World War in that.
just in case.
Just in case, yeah. And just all this kind of clutter that was quite scary, but she was really good at being cozy. Like she'd come in and talk to me and calm me down and things like that. So I really loved staying over with her. But it was freezing. There was no central heating in that house at all. I don't think they ever got central heating. They had like a heater in one room and that was it. How did they live like that the whole time? It was so cold. Yeah. We could have crackers, but mine's not making a popping noise for some weird reason. I don't know why.
Because it's in your head.
Oh, it's ripped open.
I hate when that happens.
Have you got a cracker joke? I've got one. I've got one about a nan-ish.
Go on then.
Well, like Meghan called the Queen like a lovely grandmother, so that kind of counts. But I've given the punchline away now. What is the royal family's favourite fruit?
I don't know.
It's the Queen's peach.
Hey.
Right. What about? Have you got one?
What's my? Yes, I have. I've just pulled it out of this cracker here. I've got in front of me that obviously the banger's broken. Who was the first pop star in space?
I don't know. Who was the first pop star in space?
Lady Gagarin.
Very good. It's good. It's contemporary.
It is, isn't it? It's kind of, yeah, with a nod to the past, which is what this show's all about.
I don't know about a nod to the past. I feel like I have
Living in the
permanently
past.
lived there. Permanently live.
I want to go back. I want to go back on my Rally Grifter bike.
So you had this really nice relationship with your nan. That means we're both kind of nan child then, as they used to call it.
Yeah.
He's a little nan child.
Nana Cherry song, isn't it?
Nana Cherry song. All my references are from a long time ago. So you brushed her hair. You went to the cemetery with her for little walks around the dead people, and she used to
have a cleaning job in a bookies. I think it was William Hill or Ladbrokes of an evening, and sometimes I'd go with her to that and just help out. But usually it was mainly so I could sit in the window, because I'd get into the window, because betting shops have like a display of a big card with like horses or grounds on it. So I used to open the little door and go and stand in the window and pretend I was a mannequin.
Oh my God,
I was 26.
I
wasn't really. I used to just stand as still as I could for all the passers-by to wonder what's
Did anybody walk past?
Ladbrokes. I mean, people just used to, no one ever commented or banged the window. They just see this strange child in William Hill's front window display.
Do you know what? That was always one of my ambitions, was to be able to do that, especially after watching the film Mannequin. I really wanted to just stand in a window.
I've lived your best life, Rachel.
You've lived my best life. You have. It's amazing. I was just thinking, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, what kind of old man would you like to be? I'm asking this of everyone.
I mean, years ago, like when I was a student, or when I was a teenager, actually, I used to love the Golden Girls.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to think, when I'm an old lady, I would love to live with other old ladies in a house share. So I think living with other people in a house share, I suppose you call it a retirement home now, but I mean, in a house, just sort of living like a student life, but in your 80s.
You'll have to come and move into my house and we can drink lots of Baileys together at 10 o'clock in the morning after we've been awake since 4 a.m.
Yes, because it's nearly bedtime.
I love the idea that your granddad was having Yorkshire pudding for breakfast, like.
Pretty much, yeah, like by 11 o'clock. Yeah, he was ready for his lunch at 11 o'clock.
Brilliant. Well, I love that idea. Yeah, you just want to have a house share and I
think so. Yeah, just fun. I mean, I'll probably be a real moaner, probably because I am now, and I'm not even that age yet. But I'm hoping I'll retain my sense of humour. My granddad was really sarcastic. My nan had a really dark sense of humour, as you could tell from the walnut episode. But my granddad was really sarcastic as well, and so I'd like to be like that. I think still be sharp enough to be sarcastic and sort of raise a wit. Yeah,
just basically pranking people and throwing walnuts at them. That sounds pretty good.
mucking about really. Not getting caught. Not getting into trouble.
Talking about this on the last one about being an invisible nan, like basically maybe you could just heist a bank and nobody would notice that you're there.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a lovely bit of Christmas, I think, that we've had here.
It's been so festive.
It's been so festive.
Yeah, I can't wait to spend my book token.
And I've got all my tinsel stuff. And I've still got half a pint of Bailey's left, so that's pretty good.
Half a pint of Bailey's and an allergic reaction from tinsel around your neck. What more do you want?
The Christmas I Became a Man was never revisited as I moved away, but I did learn some man tips, like get 2 pints in when the bell goes for last orders, and never lift a finger unless it's your drinking arm. My nan never did get a Christmas off, but then she found freedom in other ways by painting in the back room, experimenting with baking, and even holding psychic development circles. But that's another story. Thanks again to Craig Deeley for bringing some Yuletide cheer. I've still got some Baileys left over from Christmas, actually. I might have another little tipple. See you soon, Bab. Ta-ra a bit. Stand By Your Nan has been written and performed by Rachel Sandbrooks, co-produced with Steve Keyworth, and with music by Lewis Barfoot. It's a Gertie Words production funded by Arts Council England.
And now I'm returning with golden great store.